What is that? Well, it's totalitarian, and we should be honest about it. Too often, Republicans waste time highlighting the hypocrisy of the left. Is BLM more dangerous than the fake insurrectionists who showed up at the Capitol on January 6th? Well, yeah, obviously. Is Maxine Walters guilty of greater incitement than Donald Trump? Well, of course. But that's not the point. People like Maxine Walters don't care if you point out that they're hypocrites. They don't care if you catch them lying. You're wasting your breath when you point this out. They are not ashamed. They never will be ashamed. So how do you respond to people like this? Well, the only thing you can do is tell the truth about who they are. Maxine Walters is someone who supports mob violence. She always has supported it. We have known this. Almost 30 years ago, when race riots leveled huge parts of Los Angeles, Maxine Walters cheered them on. People want to know why I'm not saying exactly what they want me to say, she said at the time. They want me to walk out in Watts like black people did in the 60s and say, cool it, baby, cool it. Well, I'm sorry. The fact of the matter is, whether we like it or not, riot is the voice of the unheard. It was quite a riot. 58 people were killed during those riots in 1992. Many more were seriously injured. One of those most seriously injured was a man called Reginald Denny. He was beaten nearly to death. He was left with permanent brain damage. Why? Because he looked the wrong way. He had the wrong color. A mob pulled him out of his truck and smashed his skull with a cinder block. It happened on camera. If you haven't seen it, here it is.
The one image that I will never get over, it will go to my grave with me, and that's the image of Reginald Denny being pulled out of his truck and being beaten mercilessly.
Denny would undergo multiple surgeries to repair the extensive damage to his face.
How could you watch that and not feel sick? No normal person could. But Maxine Walters defended the men who did that. The ringleader of the mob who pulled Reginald Denny out of his truck was a man called Damian Williams. The day that the jury was set to deliver a verdict in the Williams case, Maxine Walters visited Damian Williams' home and offered her support. Quote, "We have an opportunity for justice to prevail," Walters said. In the end, Williams served only a short part of his sentence. He was released from prison. Then what do you think happened? He went on to murder someone else. Walters has paid no price for this. She kept rising in the Democratic hierarchy. No one told her to stop inciting violence. So naturally she did. A few years ago, she called for mobs to attack Trump supporters.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
These aren't aberrations. This is a decades-long theme. What do we conclude from it? The obvious. Maxine Walters doesn't believe in the Western understanding of justice or self-government. She believes in mob violence for political ends. That's why she's been calling for it for decades. How has the Democratic Party responded to this? They've rewarded her for it. Maxine Walters is now the chairman of one of the most powerful committees in the entire Congress, the House Financial Services. Maxine Walters oversees Wall Street. That was her reward. Tonight you're hearing Republicans call for Maxine Walters to lose her chairmanship or be expelled from the Congress. Those are obviously worthy goals, but let's not lie to ourselves. That's not going to happen. Leading Democrats aren't going to punish Maxine Walters because they're not embarrassed of Maxine Walters, because they agree with Maxine Walters. A CNN reporter asked Nancy Pelosi today if Maxine Walters should apologize for what she said, for whipping the mob into violence. No, Pelosi said, quote, "Maxine talks about confrontation in the manner of the civil rights movement." What an insult, by the way, to the actual civil rights movement. Then she was asked if Maxine Walters' comments incited violence, and Pelosi said this, quote, "No, absolutely not." So in the face of that grotesque display, silence from the Democratic Party's usual moral chorus. The Lincoln Project, what tells you it so deeply cares about democracy, is not running ads against Maxine Walters, obviously. David Frum hasn't scolded her in The Atlantic. He's not going to. The Washington Post doesn't seem to care. Why is that? Why aren't they saying anything? Obviously, they support Maxine Walters. They think her calls for violence are justified, or at least they're afraid to say otherwise, which is a distinction without a difference. This is true, and the sooner we understand it, the better. Here's a clip from a show called Burn It Down with